Ajantha Mendis, a bowler whose mystery spin once stunned the entire cricketing world. Sachin Tendulkar, Sourav Ganguly, Rahul Dravid, VVS Lakshman, the four pillars of Indian batting, had all been brought down by him. His googly, his carom ball, his off-break, every delivery felt like an unsolved puzzle for batsmen across the world. But world cricket eventually witnessed one batsman who didn't just find a way to survive Mendis, but completely destroyed his illusion. A batsman who dismantled Mendis's magic so brutally that his career never truly recovered. And this happened in Sri Lanka itself, on his own home soil. That batsman was Virendra Sehwag. Every single shot Sehwag played shook the very foundation of Mendis's confidence. Mendis tried everything to stop him, every variation, every trick. But what followed was a beating so ruthless, even Mendis could never have imagined it in his worst nightmares. This video is the story of that very match. A match where Sehwag didn't just break Mendis's arrogance, but showed the cricketing world a simple truth. No matter how dangerous a bowler is, when Virendra Sehwag is at the crease, only one result is possible: a flood of fours and sixes. In 2008, the Indian team was touring Sri Lanka. In the first match of the series, India were completely outplayed. Ajantha Mendis ran through the Indian batting lineup, and India suffered a humiliating defeat. After that match, Mendis openly mocked the Indian team, even claiming that in the next test match, Sri Lanka would crush India even more brutally. India won the toss and chose to bat first. Gautam Gambhir and Virendra Sehwag walked out to open the innings for India. In the very first over, Sehwag flicked Chaminda Vas off his pads for a classy boundary. That shot was a clear announcement. Sehwag was in a different mood that day. In the second over, Gambhir joined in as well, driving Kulasekara for a crisp 4. The ball was swinging sharply early on, so Sehwag didn't rush things. He played cautiously at the start, knowing that his real objective was to stay at the crease. He was waiting for one particular bowler, the bowler who had insulted the Indian team. Then came the 12th over. On the very first ball, Sehwag punched Kulasekara for a beautiful boundary. But the moment the ball crossed the rope, Kulasekara lost his temper and threatened Sehwag, warning him that the next delivery would break his face. That threat turned out to be a massive mistake. The very next ball was a bouncer. Sehwag rocked back and pulled it with authority, sending the ball racing to the boundary once again. The message was loud and unmistakable. And then, in the very next over, Ajantha Mendis himself was brought into the attack. The moment Sehwag saw him, something ignited inside him. Sehwag walked straight up to Mendis and challenged him. "If you have the courage, get me out." Mendis bowled. Sehwag stepped forward and launched him straight over the boundary for a 6. It was the first 6 Mendis had ever conceded in Test cricket. That single shot revealed just how much fear surrounded Mendis at the time. The 6 rattled him completely. He lost his composure and started abusing Sehwag. Sehwag didn't reply with words. He replied with his bat. In the same over, Sehwag slashed a brutal cut shot and the ball screamed away to the boundary. Now Sehwag was fully locked in, and whenever Sehwag entered that zone, his bat moved like a sword. In the very next over, he carved Kulasekara again with another ferocious cut for 4. Confidence spread through the Indian dressing room. As they say, confidence is contagious. In the following over, Gambhir too took on Mendis and drove him for a fine boundary. Kulasekara was brought back once more. Sehwag hadn't forgotten the earlier disrespect, and it was well known anyone who showed attitude to Sehwag usually paid twice the price. First ball, Sehwag leaned forward and played a picture-perfect cover drive for 4. Second ball, he followed it up with a thunderous straight drive for another boundary. Sehwag's bat was moving so fast, it looked like he was slapping the ball away. Kulasekara finally had his answer. His arrogance had been completely crushed. And to make matters worse for Sri Lanka, in the very next over, Gambhir once again struck Mendis for a boundary, adding to the growing pressure. By this point, Sri Lanka were beginning to realize something terrifying. This wasn't their mystery bowler being challenged. This was their mystery bowler being exposed. Muttiah Muralitharan was finally thrown into the attack, but even a bowler of his stature couldn't slow Sehwag down. On Murali's very first delivery, Sehwag punched the ball to the boundary and brought up his half-century in style. He had reached smashed 53 runs off just 50 balls, completely flipping the tempo of the match. At that moment, Sehwag had turned a test match into a one-day spectacle. The Sri Lankan camp was visibly tense now. Plans were changed in a hurry. Fields were rearranged. Everything revolved around one man, Virendra Sehwag. In the next over, Murali came around the wicket. Every fielder was stacked on the leg side, hoping Sehwag would try to play across the line and make a mistake. But Sehwag wasn't just power, he was calculation. He went deep into the crease, opened the face of the bat, and pierced the field through point for 4. With that shot, India crossed the 100-run mark. On the very next ball, Sehwag stayed back again and drilled Murali through cover for another boundary. Sri Lanka's carefully crafted plan was ripped apart within seconds, and the punishment didn't stop there. Sehwag then leaned into ajantha mendis and played a glorious cover drive for 4. Now Sehwag was dismantling the combined attack of Mendis and Murali, two of the most feared spinners in world cricket. They looked completely out of answers, unsure how to stop this madness. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Sri Lankan captain Mahela Jayawardena turned to Chaminda Vas. An attacking field was set immediately. From the slips, Jayawardena could be heard provoking Sehwag, claiming he couldn't handle left-arm pace and would be dismissed in this over. What Jayawardena forgot was one simple truth. Provoking Sehwag is an invitation to disaster. Chaminda Vas began with a bouncer. Sehwag swiveled instantly and pulled it powerfully through mid-wicket for 4. Later in the same over, Sehwag slashed a fierce cut shot and collected yet another boundary. India had now moved to 157 runs. Sehwag stood firm on 91, and the ball was still in Chaminda Vas's hand. Sri Lanka thought Sehwag was close to his 100 and would slow down. They couldn't have been more wrong. Vas bowled full. Sehwag went aerial. The ball sailed high and handsome over the boundary for 6. On the very next delivery, Sehwag followed it up with a thunderous straight drive for 4, completing a magnificent century. He had smashed 101 runs off just 87 balls, an innings powered by 15 boundaries and 2 towering sixes, leaving the Sri Lankan attack completely shattered. In that moment, both Jayawardena and Chaminda Vas understood the price of challenging Virendra Sehwag, but the drama was far from over. In the very next over, Gautam Gambhir was trapped LBW by ajantha mendis. Rahul Dravid walked in next, but Mendis struck again, dismissing him for just 2 runs. The same bowler who Sehwag was treating like a club cricketer was making life impossible for the rest of India's batting lineup. Sachin Tendulkar then arrived at the crease. He began with a boundary, but in the very next over, Chaminda Vas trapped him LBW with an in-swinger. On the final ball of that over, Sourav Ganguly edged one to the slips and was gone as well. India had slipped from 167 without loss to 178 for 4. The team was suddenly in deep trouble, and now the entire responsibility rested on one man, Virendra Sehwag. VVS Lakshman walked out to support him, but Mendis continued to beat Lakshman repeatedly with his spin. Sehwag understood what had to be done. Mendis needed to be attacked again. Sensing an opportunity, Jayawardena left the cover region deliberately open and taunted Sehwag, daring him to hit through the gap. Sehwag accepted the challenge immediately. On the very next ball, he drove Mendis straight through cover for 4. The following delivery met the same fate, another boundary through the same region. Jayawardena rushed to plug the gap, finally realizing that Sehwag should never be challenged. On the last ball of the over, Laxman joined the act and struck Mendis for a boundary as well. Mendis then tried going around the wicket to Sehwag. It made no difference. Sehwag stepped forward and smashed a clean, straight drive that raced to the boundary like a bullet. It felt as if Sehwag was batting on an entirely different surface, while everyone else was struggling on another pitch altogether. Sehwag and Laxman began to rebuild calmly. They rotated the strike, picked up singles, and punished loose deliveries with boundaries. Then came a landmark moment. Off Chaminda Vas, Sehwag took a single and raised his score to 150. It was the 11th time in his career that Sehwag had converted 100 into a score of 150 or more. That alone showed the difference. Sehwag didn't play for centuries, he played for monumental innings. In the next over, Sehwag hammered Murali for a boundary. Soon after, he launched Mendis for a 6. Every time Sehwag faced Mendis, he reminded him of his true place in this contest. Eventually, Mendis managed to trap Lakshman in his web, dismissing him for 39. Then Dinesh Karthik followed soon after, falling for just 7 runs. India were now 6 wickets down. Anil Kumble walked in to support Sehwag. Sehwag knew the tale wouldn't last long, so he decided to finish the job himself. On a Mendis delivery, Sehwag stepped down the track and launched the ball clean over the bowler's head for a massive 6. With that shot, India crossed the 300-run mark, and once again, one truth stood taller than the scoreboard. When Virender Sehwag decides to attack, even the most feared bowlers in the world are left helpless. At the other end, Anil Kumble was dismissed by Muttiah Muralitharan, and in the very next over, Ajantha Mendis removed Harbhajan Singh as well. Virender Sehwag was left standing almost alone at the non-striker's end, watching wicket after wicket fall. Soon after, Muralitharan struck again and dismissed Zahir Khan. Sehwag was now trying his best to farm the strike, playing out most of the over himself and attempting to keep the tail away from the ball. But even the last 1 or 2 deliveries of an over were proving too difficult for the lower order batters to survive. Then came a historic moment. On the final ball of a Muralitharan over, Sehwag calmly took a single and brought up his double century. A double 100 on a pitch where no other Indian batter could even settle at the crease. It was an innings that felt unreal. In the following over, Sehwag took a single on the 5th ball of Mendis's over, trusting that Ishant Sharma would survive the final delivery. But Ishant was dismissed on that very ball. India's innings came to an end at 329, with Sehwag remaining unbeaten on 201, stranded but monumental. At one stage, India had looked set for something even bigger, but 329 was still a very competitive total on this surface. When Sri Lanka came out to bat, the Indian bowlers responded brilliantly. Sri Lanka were bowled out for 292, with Harbhajan Singh picking up 6 wickets and Anil Kumble claiming 3. India secured a 37-run lead, small on paper, but absolutely crucial in the context of the match. India then returned for their second innings, and once again, the responsibility was clear. Sehwag and Gautam Gambhir needed to give India a strong start. More importantly, Sehwag had to score quickly against the new ball, because once it got old, facing Muralitharan and Mendis would become extremely difficult. In the second over, Sehwag smashed Kulasekara for a fierce boundary, sending out a clear message that this innings would be no different from the first. The shot was hit with such power that no fielder even had time to react. Sehwag hadn't forgotten the sledging from the first innings, and this was his answer. When Kulasekara returned for his next over, Sehwag attacked him again, hammering 2 more boundaries. Seeing this destruction, Sri Lankan captain Mahela Jayawardena brought Muralitharan into the attack as early as the 6th over. Sehwag greeted him with a magnificent sweep shot for 4, a stroke so clean that even Murali couldn't help but admire it. At the other end, Gambhir played sensibly, but Sehwag was in full assault mode. In Murali's next over, Sehwag went down on one knee again and swept him for a massive 6. Even a bowler of Murali's experience looked unsettled under this relentless pressure. Gambhir soon joined the party, striking Chaminda Vas for a boundary. Kulasekara was brought back again, but Sehwag punished him immediately with another fierce 4. India raced to 52, with Sehwag alone contributing 36 runs. Inspired by Sehwag, Gambhir shifted gears as well. He struck both Vas and Murali for boundaries, and when Mendis returned to bowl, Sehwag smashed him for 4 to bring up his half-century. This time, Sehwag reached the milestone in just 49 balls. The partnership grew rapidly and crossed 90 runs, but then Chaminda Vas finally managed to dismiss Sehwag as he attempted to hit over the covers. The Sri Lankan celebration told the story. They knew exactly how valuable that wicket was, yet the damage had already been done. Sehwag had handed India a blistering start, pushing their overall lead to 127 runs. His aggressive batting had forced Sri Lanka completely onto the back foot. From there, Gambhir and Rahul Dravid took control. Dravid played a composed innings of 44, while Gambhir anchored the effort with a brilliant 74. Thanks to their contributions, India posted 269 runs in the second innings, setting Sri Lanka a daunting target of 307 on a pitch that was now turning sharply. Sri Lanka never stood a chance. The Indian bowlers ran through their lineup, bowling them out for just 136 runs. India won the match by a massive 170-run margin. Virender Sehwag was named man of the match for his extraordinary performance. But more than the award, this match became a turning point in cricket history. Sehwag not only avenged India's humiliation at the hands of Ajantha mendis, he showed the entire world how mendis could be dismantled. So tell us in the comments, out of 10, how many marks would you give this legendary Sehwag innings? And if you're a true Sehwag fan, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because the next story is going to be even more explosive.